Hey, Mike, good to see you.
Hey, you too, Harland.
Yeah, and congratulations, Navy beating Army. I wasn't real happy about it, but congratulations. A great game, and
Yes.
we
Yeah,
have this fun every year.
that's right. At the end of the day, hey, we are still all on the same side.
Yep, we're still the
Wave the
same
same
team.
flag.
Yep, we've not broken off our relationship, and Navy and Army are really in the same game.
Yep.
When I think about a football game, sometimes I think about retirement as being very similar. A football game can be scary going into it. Navy might have been scared going into it as the underdog, but it also can be quite exciting as you move through the game. You and I have found retirement to be which scary or exciting?
For me, exciting. For my wife, I think maybe more scary, but we've been able to do a lot of things that we just did not have the time to do when we were working,
Yeah.
per se.
So you two prepared well. It was a process to get ready and prepare well. Barbara and I are the same. We're out of the rat race. I still stay very busy doing a lot of things, including helping people prepare for retirement and get investments that work for them in that. Let's look at three things today, Mike. One, just being able to retire. You're 45, 50 years old, 65 years old. Are you going to be ready to retire? Second is outliving retirement savings. I've been around long enough that I've watched some people that outlived their retirement savings, and that's no fun either. And then just this whole thing of inflation that we've been facing the last several years here, and you and I've faced several times in our life already. Being able to retire, simply being able to retire. You're 45, you're 50, you start thinking about that. I know I did.
Yeah, and I hope that people have started thinking about it a long time ahead of that because
You're right.
it's just you need to plan early to let time and compounding work on your investments.
Yeah. So if you're of that later age there and you got kids, remind them to start as early as they can and let compounding be their friend. Uh, yeah.
That's right, because the later you wait, the harder you have to work and more you have to set aside in order to be able to enjoy the retirement.
Yeah. To have enough saved by the time you want to retire is something that people are a little fearful about. Do we have enough saved? Will we be able to retire? You have any stories about that yourself or friends or others?
I know some who have been able to retire early and others that have had to keep working well past when they should have. And
Yep. You and Barb came around to the place where you retired a little bit earlier than you might have planned originally.
we did. And part of the inspiration, well, we've had multiple inspirations, but when I turned 50, I was on a bike ride and the guy I was riding with says, life can be split up into three phases. The first phase is diapers to adulthood, and those are your learning years. Then you have the middle third are your growing years. When you grow your portfolio, you might grow a family. And you said then 50 to 75, those are the best years. That's the best third. That's when you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor for all these years and get to enjoy more of it. And then after 75, everything else after that is gravy. He was into his gravy years.
Yeah, and
And I realized if I was 50, I was approaching retirement pretty soon. And I needed to, if I was going to enjoy that best third, I needed to be able to have the time and resources to be able to do that.
yeah, so people want to be able to retire. I know. I have a friend, we had a class party recently, and I had a friend, 75 years old, couldn't be at the party because she's still working. She didn't prepare well enough along the way there. Just so make sure you have enough to retire, and we can help with that. The second is just outliving those retirement savings. You may make a plan for 30 years, and then what if the money runs out? What are you going to do if you live 35 years or 40 years beyond your retirement? That's another fear some people have. I know as a pastor, I knew several that retired in the 80s and thought you know, if we could keep making $20,000-$30,000 a year, we're going to be fine. But they planned for a retirement where they made that, but the cost just went up so much year after year after year that they had some real difficulties. They outlived their retirement savings.
Yeah, it's you know, you need to understand what you're going to spend. Some things are going to go up in cost. You know, what's your lifestyle? And you know, some pensions are frozen. You know, they don't go up with inflation. Other income may, like Social Security, is indexed for inflation, but it may or may not actually keep up. So
Yep, my wife's mother is an example of outliving. Her husband was a postal worker, so I mean, the federal government provides a pretty good pension there. But when he died, and she had hers in her retirement money in CDs, very conservative, and they went down to 0.5% a year uh, returns. She pretty soon couldn't even afford to get her hair done,
yeah,
and eventually had to come live with us. You know, that outliving is a real challenge.
yeah, that reminds me of something Pete Fortunato said. He's one of my favorite real estate teachers. He says, it's a terrible thing to be physically alive and financially dead. And that's
Yeah.
what some people are.
So make sure that's one of the things we enjoy helping people, our investor friends, find the right investment that not only are they going to get the cash flow income they need to continue their lifestyle, but they're going to grow that retirement savings to maintain that retirement lifestyle even as costs go up. And that leads us to the last piece here, just inflation, Mike. You know, if you're retired for 20, 30 years, inflation is going to play a big role in whether you're ready or not.
Yes, it is. Sometimes, you know, if you look back, inflation may have averaged around 3% over the last few decades. And, you know, there's been times when all of a sudden it jumps up. And I think back to what a financial planner told me one time that in a bear market, you know, a bear market will typically recover within about 4 years. And that is one of the worst, you know, going into a bear market is probably one of the worst things that can happen right after you retire because all of a sudden your portfolio may drop 20% and you were counting on that income. But over the next 4 years, you should recover back to where the market was. But when you have inflation, that's a permanent change. And when inflation jumps up past where you were expecting, past your 3%, what happens if inflation goes up 6%, 8 or 10% or more? You know, do you have the income? How are you going to adjust for it?
Yeah.
Because that is a permanent change and your income usually does not go up with inflation.
Yeah. So these are things that our friends that we have relationships with and help out with some investment opportunities that they're concerned about, and we were concerned about, and we are concerned about, but we found a way to address them with real estate as an investment tool in a portfolio to have real estate in there. Why is real estate so good, Mike?
Because we've talked before about the five, or about why it's an ideal investment. And just point out a couple of them. You have the income from the cash flow. So you might, for example, get some return in there. You might get 6% return out of the cash flow. Then you also get a return because of the inflation. The property goes up in value.
Mhm.
So we get appreciation. Now, if the property is leveraged, then, for example, if your leverage loan to value is 50%, then instead of going up 3% for inflation, it might go up 6%. So now you're talking about an overall 12% return with the real estate.
Yeah.
And
So
it becomes not just a hedge against inflation, but you're using it as a tool so that when inflation strikes, you are growing your portfolio faster.
yeah. So if you'd like to talk about these fears, we know them, we've experienced them, and we know people and how to address them. being able to retire, outliving your retirement savings, dealing with inflation, get in touch. In fact, we've got an ebook that we put together, Mike. What's the title of that ebook?
3 keys to unlocking your retirement dreams.
So if you'd like to look at 3 keys to unlocking your retirement dreams, there'll be a note at the end of this with that link where you can download that ebook and address these concerns that many of us have. Mike, thanks for the conversation today.
Right.
Best to you. Talk to you next week.
You too. Thanks, Harlan.
Bye-bye now.
Right. Bye.